So thank you for being here today. The talk is going to be about the Cisco VEXperience. I needed to put a little bit of a joke in there, okay? At Cisco, my name is Dario Ciccarone, and I am a principal engineer with the Security and Trust Organization at Cisco. Maybe this works or maybe it doesn't. I have to put, okay, who am I? This is who I am. Everybody here can read. So currently, I'm with the Cisco Secure Lifecycle Development Organization. I used to be with the Product Security Incident Response team. I was there for 20 years, and I saw so many things that, you know, it scared me. It changed me forever. Before that, I was on the worldwide security practices. We were doing pen testing, okay, like white hat, hacking or whatever, you know, it was called back in the day. We were doing solutions, security solutions, design and implementation. Before that, worked for the government, and this should give you an idea how old I am, okay? I was managing a network that was Nobel 311 servers and Network 351, and SEO Unix 3. We have all of that, okay? To keep it fun, we had one on each one of those. And by the way, as a side, I remember the servers running Nobel Network 311. They were like this big. I talked to my kids. They were like this big and this big and this big. And we had 4 gigabytes of storage, and we were king of the world, okay? And then I tell my daughter, the phone that you have on your pocket probably has more computer power than all servers together. Like, yeah, okay, come on, back to take you to the, you know, to the house. But yeah. Before that, university, learning to program in Turbo Pascal. And in high school, I was disassembling computer viruses back in the day. I don't know, you know, don't say that you remember this because then you are betraying yourself, telling how old you are too. Disassembling viruses like Jerusalem 18808 using the good old DOS debug utility from the command line. That was fun. Now, let's talk about distributing vulnerability information at Cisco. Because of who we are, we don't actually have one mechanism. We have more than 5, okay? And we're going to go super quickly through this. Don't worry, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, just for you to familiarize yourself with the different mechanisms that we have. We have the traditional Cisco advisories, which come in 2 different flavors, which come HTML, anybody can read, or CSAF, so they are machine readable. We have the OpenVuln API, we have software checker, and debug search toolkit. And give you a quick example of each one of those. This is a traditional Cisco security advisory, as I said before, is in HTML. This is supposed to be consumed by humans. And right there from the advisory itself, and you have, you know, the title, summary, details, affected versions, CVE ID, bug IDs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're not going to spend a lot of time talking about that. You can click from there, and you can download the CSAF version of this advisory, so you can import into your tool. The thing here is that this is us, this is Cisco telling you about a vulnerability, okay? I want for you to be aware of this vulnerability, this CVE ID, these symptoms, these workarounds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the vast majority of the advisories that Cisco publishes is for Cisco-owned vulnerabilities, okay? Or own vulnerabilities. We rarely, but we do it, publish advisories for vulnerabilities in third-party software, okay? So remember here, rarely about third-party software, and we are telling you about this vulnerability. You are not asking us about a vulnerability. The next flavor is exactly the same thing, and it's truly exactly the same thing, because we take the same input data and goes down one pipe to become HTML and goes down a different pipe to become CSAF. And again, exactly the same thing that we said before. It's us about telling you vulnerability, mostly about Cisco products, in the vast majority of the advisories, not about third-party software, and that's about the size of it. The OpenVuln API, a third mechanism, integrates with other tool that we have is a software checker. You can query this API using a CVE ID, using an advisory ID, using a product identifier, and it's going to give you information about Cisco ESA, Cisco iOS, Cisco iOS XE, but then again is exclusively about Cisco vulnerabilities. Oh, by the way, the API is free. Okay, the advisories are also free in case somebody was wondering. Cisco iOS Software Checker, you come here, again, limited to non-TPS vulnerabilities and limited to a subset of products, as it says there, ASA, Firewall Management Center, FTD, FXOS, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You enter a version number, and the version and the product and the software tells you, okay, that version of software for that product is affected by this, and this vulnerability. And if there is a fix, it's going to tell you this is the software version on which you can find a fix for that vulnerability or for all that vulnerabilities. Limited number of this is all about, again, about Cisco, limited number of operating systems, limited number of products, not about TPS. And the final one, or so to speak, is the bug search toolkit. The bug search toolkit is a generic tool at Cisco, and these are how customers, they go to our website and they find information about any defect in our products. This is not only about security vulnerabilities, it's about any defect affecting any Cisco product. You enter the bug ID or the defect ID, and back you get all this information. You get the symptoms, conditions, workarounds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We also use this to distribute vulnerability information, both for Cisco products, for Cisco own vulnerabilities, it's always for Cisco products, for Cisco own vulnerabilities, and also we use this to distribute information about vulnerabilities on Cisco products, which the source root is a third-party software component. However, querying the bug search toolkit, it's a little bit cumbersome. Okay, you need to look for CVE ID. You have limited capability to filter down by product, platform release, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what I'm here is that we have multiple mechanisms, and they have all served us well all these years, and we hope that also have helped our customers. However, there was nothing like what we have now, because this is the one ring to rule them all. CVR, the Cisco Vulnerability Repository. We put this into production in May of 2022. This is specifically about vulnerabilities in third-party software affecting Cisco products, okay? So once again, vulnerabilities in any Cisco product for which the root cause is a third-party software component, OpenSSL, OpenSSH, Apache, Tomcat, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If the customer enters a Cisco CVE ID or a TPS CVE ID, as I said before, for very small number of third-party software vulnerabilities, we do publish an advisory. If they enter that, they are going to be redirected to the actual advisory. They are not going to get an answer on the tool itself. It only has information for TPS vulnerabilities that were disclosed, started on 2018 and after, does not support cloud offerings, allows the download of a VEX document, a CSAF document using the VEX profile. You select a given product, a given platform, a given release in a given CVE ID, and you're given the option to download the VEX document for that. And we have an absolutely extensive FAQ at that URL, which you are welcome to go and read. So quick screenshot for you to give you an idea. This is how it looks like, okay? So, okay, wow, it works. So this is what we will call a narrow query. Narrow. You enter a CVE ID, you enter a CVE ID here, and then you select a product, and then you select a platform, and then you select a software release, okay, product, platform, and release, and then you get, hopefully, an answer. And this is what we call a broad query. The only thing that you enter here is a CVE ID, and just press enter, and off to the races we go. And when you get back is this list of all the Cisco products, and if you click on the plus, then they're going to expand to platforms, and then you click on the plus, and it's going to expand to releases, and then you're going to have the actual determination, okay? And then again, you can download the VEX document. This is an example of a vulnerability for which this specific release is not affected, okay? Is not affected, and right there is the link. If you click there, you're gonna download this data as a VEX document. And this is an example on which this release for this platform of this product is actually affected. We put it in red in case that, we really needed to make it obvious. And once again, you can click here and download the VEX document. Now, before somebody asks, what happens when we don't know? What happens when you come asking about, hey, does this vulnerability affect this release for this platform of this product? Then you get this. Okay, you get this button that says request assessment, and if you click on the button, on the back end, what is going to happen, a ticket is going to be open, and it's going to be sent to the product development team, and basically it's going to say, hey, a customer wants to know if this software release is affected by this vulnerability, please tell us. And then we turn around and we give that information to you. Any questions so far? Just how I like. I don't see you. Oh, if you want.
Thank you very much. So is this CVR behind any type of authorization?
Excellent question. Excellent question. Yes, it is. However, you only need to sign up for a free guest account and you get access to all of this.
So no entitlement whatsoever. You don't have
No
to Cisco.
entitlement whatsoever. It's not a paywall. It is a requirement to be authenticated, because once you're authenticated, we can do this. We can collect information. Okay. And hey, you know what? It's free. So CVR numbers, okay? And we're going to split into queries and VEX download. This one? Yes. Okay. So the sample data covers a little bit less than 3 years, okay? 1,040 days, which actually I use a tool to convert. It's 2 years and 10 months. We had a total of 229,000 records. We eliminate 60,000 records of that sample set because they came from internal testing, availability and performance tools, invalid tools, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I was looking, I was like, oh my goodness, this person really, really likes to come and query application. No, it actually, he was using, he should not be doing that. He should be using a specific user testing account. He was using his own account to perform the testing, and there we are, 60,000. That leaves us with approximately 170,000 valid records, and from that, the first determination, the first data point that we extract is that of all of the thousands of CVE IDs that have been issued since 1999, only 7,700 have been queried to see if it affects Cisco product. And please, once again, let's remember that we are talking about CVE IDs for third-party software component, okay? Your OpenSSLs, your OpenSSH, your Apache Tomcat, any open source component. So customers have come to us asking for 7,700 unique CVE IDs, and we have gotten requests from a little bit less than 13,000 unique users within those 2 years and 10 months. And this is the first thing that we see, okay? Which products are the ones that are most interesting to our customers, or which are the Cisco products that the customers come to us looking for TPS vulnerability information the most? And I'm not gonna read the list because hopefully we all can read, okay? So the first one, Cisco NextOS software, identity service engine. I said that I wasn't, but I'm gonna. And it starts because the duality of man, right? And then starting from the bottom, the Cisco Security Appliance software. Now, this is interesting to us. This is interesting to us because, we had some ideas. We have some products that are Cisco flagship products, okay? We sell a lot of hardware, but at the end of the day, most of that hardware runs either Cisco IOS XR or Cisco IOS XE or Cisco IOS Classic or Cisco NXOS. This was super interesting to us because it allows us to actually see of all those flagship products, which are the ones that the customers actually are looking at the most or are interested in the most. And I'm going to tell you that some of those products truly surprise us. Now, going back, this is super bad. It says there 170,000 valid records. And before anybody says, wow, but 95,000 is not 67% of 170,000. Yes, it's because if you remember, we said that we have two different flavors, the broad query and the narrow query. When you do the broad query, you may enter just a CVE ID. You do not provide enough information at that point for us to collect product, platform release, etc. So this data set is slightly reduced. It's only 142,000. But even then, this is the point, okay? 10% or 10 products are 70% of the queries against the tool, just 10 products. And again, this is 7,700 CVE IDs. The next one really surprises me. Not every CVE ID is super popular. Okay, it's like there are some people out there that is very, very sad and very, very lonely. So 45% of the query CVE IDs, 3,500, they were queried exactly once. Exactly once, okay? And before anybody asks, we did think about, hey, maybe we should check those are typos, etc. It's too much to be a typo, okay? It's too much to be a transposition of digits. But in any case, 45% were queried only once. The other 55% were queried more than once, at least twice, okay? But that doesn't actually mean that they are also super popular. And here is the distribution, and my manager, when he was reviewing this slide, was like, make clear to explain what this is, okay? So on that side, what you're gonna see is by CVE IDs, okay, group by CVE IDs. And on the other side is the number of queries for those CVE IDs, okay? So in this particular case, we see that 90% of those 7,700 CVE IDs had less than 100 queries, okay? 98% had less than 100 queries. Now, how many queries is that? That is 44,000 queries, okay? So 98% of the CVE IDs had only or just 45,000 queries. And then the rest, between 100 and 499, between 500 and 1,000, and above 1,000. Super interesting, again, at least to us, is that only 17 CVE IDs, which is less than 0.25%, only 17 CVE IDs had more than 1,000 queries, and those 17 CVE IDs represent more than 50% of the queries, okay? So it's a huge agglutination of a lot of queries centered on a very small number of CVE IDs. And before I forget, this is data from our systems, from our customers about our products. I think it's interesting to share, and that's why I'm here, it's interesting to share it with you, but I will not try to transpose or expand or take this information to your own products or your own services or whatever, okay? This is what's of interest to our customers for our products, for those CVE IDs that they consider of interest to them. They may probably not be absolutely translatable to any other product or any other customer base. The next one is separated or split by CVSS 3.1 base score. And here again, we go and we see that out of the 7,700, 911 CVE IDs, less than 12% have a base score of critical. 42% have a score of high, and then the rest is mediums and lows. What is interesting here is that the mediums and lows, okay, are 55%. So 55% of the CVE IDs have a CVSS base score of either medium and low. And again, this goes because when we're looking at the data is, what are the patterns that we can see? Are people asking about critical CVE IDs? Are asking about high CVE IDs? And what we see is that, maybe, okay, but also mediums and also, and the next one is also super interesting because, at least to us, the number of queries between medium CVSS 3.1 base score and low CVSS 0.1 is 55% of all queries. So more than 50% of the queries is for CVIDs with a base score of medium or low, okay? So if anybody here is like, oh, probably, you know, it's gonna be queries about the highs and criticals, no, not really, okay? The CAPE catalog, okay? This is also another thing that for us is of interest. How many of those? I see that it's also of interest to you, right? So how many of those CVIDs are present on the CAPE catalog? Only 413, okay? So less than 6% of the query CVIDs are present in the CAPE catalog. And once again, considering number of requests, that 413 CVIDs, it's only 5% of all the queries being performed. Now, careful here, okay? Because as we know, on the CAPE catalog, you have both open source vulnerabilities and non-open source vulnerabilities, okay? So we cannot immediately say like, oh, well, only 5%. Yeah, only 5% of all the CVIDs, but also consider the distribution. And I'm going to be honest with you, nobody asked the question, okay? How many of the CVIDs on the CAPE catalog are about TPS components versus commercial software components? Because I thought about calculating that and I didn't, okay? So don't ask me that question. Do not ask me that question. And ta-da! Probably we are wondering about this. These are the 15 most queried CVIDs, and I'm going to tell you that this was a surprise to us. This truly was a surprise to us. However, after we recover from the shock and surprise, it shouldn't be so much of a surprise, right? So very cluster, right? Out of those 15 most queried CVIDs, 14 of those, I'm gonna be careful here, 13 of those are about a single open source package, OpenSSH. The most queried CVID is about the SSH protocol in general, so it will apply to OpenSSH, etc. And just one of them is about something else, okay? And that is ActiveMQ. Now, the top component or the top CVID most queried is Terrapin, okay? So you probably heard about Terrapin before. And that's about it, okay? Going back for a second, why you shouldn't be surprised, because as many of the products that we sell are network devices, I think that it makes sense for our customer base to be concerned about any vulnerability that could be exploited for a network-based protocol that they are using to actually manage and administer the product, okay? So as I said, it was a little bit of a surprise, but looking back, it should have been such a big surprise. And man, I'm just flying through. And now, very similar to the previous one, we were looking at score distribution for all the vulnerabilities being queried. Now, when we actually focus about those 15 that we were looking before, okay, what is the score distribution? And once again, 48% of those vulnerabilities scores between medium and low, and the other ones are scoring high or critical. When we're talking about requests, 70,000% of the requests for these 15, okay, for these 15 vulnerabilities, they went to medium scoring vulnerability. So that is telling me that the customers are not as much concerned, as an example, about the CVSS score of the vulnerability, but it's more of a trigger effect, okay? Oh, the vulnerability affects OpenSSH. I immediately want to know if the product is affected by the vulnerability. We also saw the same before on the previous slide, okay? When we see a distribution about all the vulnerabilities being queried, we don't see a strong bias toward querying for high-end critical CVE IDs. We see that is more than 50% of those were for vulnerabilities scoring low or medium on the CVSS 3.1 base score. So yeah, so that was also interesting for us. And for the top 100, again, we look at all the 7,700 CVE IDs that were queried, then we look at the 15 more queries. For the top 100 most queried CVE IDs, this is the distribution at the TPS component affected. So, oops, ooh, sorry about that. Okay, so 22 of those CVE IDs, 22 of the top 100 were about OpenSSH. 23 about OpenSSL, okay? So between these two components, OpenSSH and OpenSSL, we have almost 50% of the most queried TPS components. Then the rest, we have Apache Tomcat, okay, 11%, not bad. We are gonna get back to this later. Five of those CVE IDs were for core or libcore, 2 for struts, and here is the big, you know, the other 25% is everything else, and everything else is Linux kernel, everything else is ZX, okay? Everybody here remembers when ZX was Trojanized and made it into OpenSSH, ActiveMQ, NGINX, Log4j. Nobody asked. Yeah, Log4j wasn't a big one, okay? No, not a lot of people asking about Log4j, and there is a reason for that. And this is kind of funny because if you remember at the beginning, I said CVR has information about vulnerabilities in TPS components, okay? It doesn't have information about CVE IDs for Cisco vulnerabilities. And yet, 10 of the top 100 most queried CVE IDs are Cisco CVE IDs. So either we don't write our documentation right, or our customers are not reading the documentation, but it's okay, okay? This is actually okay, and we're gonna talk about why it is okay later. So far, what I've been talking about is CVR queries. Somebody coming to the GUI, enter a CVE ID, and either selecting a product platform and release on the spot, or just entering the CVE ID, getting the whole listing, start looking through them, and in some cases, maybe requesting a status, requesting an assessment. What about VEX? Okay. When we first put CVR in production in May of 2022, there was no VEX download capability, okay? At that moment, we only have the query capabilities and request the assessment of a given vulnerability. You did not have the capability to download the VEX document. We added that in June of 2023, 1 year, 10 months, approximately, as of today. And since then, we have seen a total of 6,589 VEX documents being downloaded. In those, a little bit less than 7,000 VEX documents, they represent 89 products. We offer 252 products. You can choose, you know, one of 252 products on CVR. Customers have only been downloading VEX documents for 89 of those products. And remember that we say a total of 7,700 unique CVE IDs were queried. They are only downloading VEX document, or they only downloaded VEX document for a little bit more of 500 of those CVE IDs. And these are the top 10 products that are getting the most VEX downloads for, okay? And because I thought that somebody was going to ask, how does the top categories of VEX download map to the top 10 most queried product. And it actually, they match pretty closely. Okay, so they tell me that the math is right. The first one, the Cisco NX software, no change. Okay, Cisco USXC software did a little bit better. Okay, move actually one spot. It's popular for VEX download, more popular than for queries. Okay, Cisco Identity Engine software, Cisco Firepower, Threat Defense. In general, the positions are more or less close together. These 10 products represent 4,500 VEX document downloads, which is approximately 70% of the total VEX downloaded document. One product that disappeared from here is the Cisco appliance, the Cisco ASA, the software that run on the one of the softwares that you can run on the firewall. It completely dropped from the list. It doesn't make it to the list of the 10 most downloaded products for VEX documents. And for the top 10 CVE IDs, again, in comparing to the most queried CVE IDs, we see again that Terrapin 48785 keeps being the top one. And again, the changes, there are no significant changes between the most queried CVE IDs and the CVE IDs with the most VEX downloads. And again, that is the total number of VEX downloads for these 10 CVE IDs. Again, 10 CVE IDs represent approximately 70% of the VEX document downloads. Questions? Oh man, either I'm super clear. There is lunch after this. 10 products account for 70% of total queries. This was a little bit of a surprise to us. Okay, I mean, we will have hope or expected a little bit more of a spread, but no. Okay, customers seems to care about a very small number of Cisco products. Again, a very, very small number of all the CVE IDs being queried, it's like, I think that is less than a quarter of 1%, account for more than 50% of the queries. There is a lot of clustering on this very small number of CVE IDs. 45% of the query CVE IDs, as we said before, they have a CVSS score of low or medium. So clearly, you know, looking at the base CVSS score, it's not the hugest priority of our customers. 50% of the most queries, again, are medium or low. 14 of the top 15 are about either OpenSSH or the SSH protocol. And 60% of the top 100 most queried CVE IDs are about just 4 TPS components: OpenSSH, OpenSSL, ActiveMQ, and cur/libcur. The funny thing of having a summary slide is that I have a second summary slide. So I guess it wasn't that much of a summary. Well, I am not part of the development team developing this code, so.
Can you repeat the question? Dario?
Yeah, the question is if we have enough information to still justify the the return of investment of continue to doing this VEX work. Is that correct? Yes. Well, we think that there is, because we have high hopes for the future. That was a chuckle for somebody, but it's true, and you're gonna see. Oh, you're gonna see why. Okay. But yes, it's certainly and again, I ran super quickly through my slides because I was afraid that I was gonna run out of time. But we're seeing interesting things. Okay, we think that, and this is with the utmost respect to everybody, I think that we move faster than our customer base. And how do we know that? Because we see many customers that come to us looking for this information, They say, hey, I want this vulnerability information. I want to know this product. And that has been happening for since so long. I've been at Cisco, which is now more than 25 years, okay? People come in asking, does this vulnerability affect my product, yes or not, all the time, okay? The technical assistance center, the support guys, it's very common for them, and we are working with them on that. It's very common for customers to open a case and just attach a security scanner report and say, tell me, okay? And they want to know because they scanned a set of assets or whatever, and they want to know if those vulnerabilities apply to the version, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, what I'm saying that we move faster than our customers is because, again, the customers are asking for this vulnerability information. Does it apply? Does it not apply? Can you tell me if it applies or not? And in many cases, when we send them to the CVR and say, hey, you know what, go and find yourself and download the VEX document, et cetera, in many cases, they come back and says, don't you have an Excel spreadsheet? So yes, and the answer before anybody else asks is no, I don't. We don't speak Excel here. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. The interest is there. It's just that we think that in many cases our customers have not, or customers and their tools, and we're going to talk about that for a second. Okay, have not kept up. So the need is there. They are not getting in VEX because either they can't or their tools cannot process. And for me, I mean, I'm so grateful that I attended the first presentation in this room today from this person from Red Hat, because he was talking about what they are doing about VEX, and they certainly have done a lot there, but that also where he was talking about how he was importing VEX documents from other vendors, and he had trouble parsing them. And here's an internal Cisco, joke from my team. We say nobody comes complaining about not being able to parse the documents. So either they are perfect or nobody's actually reading them. Okay, so yeah, so does this answer your question? We are investing in a future that is going to be bright, we hope.
Hey, Dario, I think you just made a new feature request for my Python script to export to Excel. For
CSV.
doctors, or to CSV. Yeah, yep, exactly. I do think it's interesting, like a lot of the data that you have, and maybe it's not particularly pertinent to the VEX part, but from what I was seeing, there was a lot of focus by your customers on like the moderate and low vulnerabilities as opposed to the criticals and highs. Now, I don't know what Cisco's like response policy is, but do you fix all, like everything that's on your CVE pages or VEX documents, is it all fixed?
It's all what?
Is it all fixed?
In some cases it is, in some cases it's not, and it will be fixed, and in some cases it's not fixed, and it will not be fixed.
Okay, because I think another data point that would be interesting for you, and I've actually learned a lot as well, is maybe looking for the ones that aren't fixed, and is that where you're getting the most queries for? Because on our side, because we fix all criticals and importance, I don't expect customers to look for those. They just DNF update and they're done. It's the moderates and lows that we don't fix that they tend to come to us with questions about.
Okay.
And I'm just wondering if that's maybe the case for you as well.
I did not, but yeah, certainly that's another, thank you, I appreciate it, because I didn't think about doing that. I did spend a lot of time with the data, and I did a lot of things that I will even ashamed to share with you, okay? Like, which day of the weeks are the ones that people queries? Yeah. Do people work on the weekends? And the answer is, depends on which time zone you live.
We do have a question from the Discord. I'm going to try to read it from Wilfred. Hello. I have a quick question. Why today Cisco does not publish third-party vulnerabilities affecting Cisco products when we had multiple in the past, such as OpenSSL, OpenSSH, Bind? We have to check now every product change log to check if there is some dependency there has been updated. Because we have CVR now, all the data, why not creating human readable advisories on your main page?
Because we have decided to make this information available as VEX documents. Because I think that making this information available, as an example, in HTML or wherever, it's a little bit of a losing proposition. I mean, I can make it available on VEX, and then the gentleman from Red Hat is going to write us a tool that is going to read the VEX and convert to HTML. Thank you, thank you. I have a Cisco share for you. But if you make it happen, okay. But I'm sorry, what? Yes, for what people do for a share, right? And we're not gonna go there. But yeah, I don't think that, and we're gonna talk about that in the before last slide a little bit, okay? So I have this gentleman over here, and I think that you were to, okay, you can wait. Okay, well, good for you.
So my question would be, thank you for the graphs and for the severity of the vulnerabilities. Do you at Cisco also evaluate how what the impact of the vulnerability to your product is? So, because my question would be, would these vulnerabilities still critical for your product in that specific graph?
And is this,
yeah. So, because for us,
that's a good question. Shit. I don't want to say it depends. Okay. In general, we will tend to agree that the base score matches the impact to our product. Okay. In general, if it's a denial of service, yeah, because it's, again, okay, I cannot give you a straight answer like no, yes, because it's for you it's a remote code execution. For me, it's a crash because I have stack canaries. Okay. So yeah, we give the option of each and every development team to perform that assessment and adjust the score based on their understanding of the impact of the vulnerability to their product, okay? Many go with the CVSS base score. Does this answer?
Yes, perfectly. And the additional question to that would then be the components that you get queried for. Did you look basically into what's the difference between the components that are queried to the components that are not queried in how those components can be found in a network through a scanner? Because kind of OpenSSL and OpenSSH, I think, is kind of low-hanging fruit type of thing, and all the other important vulnerabilities are maybe not.
That's a very good
I don't
question.
want to blame anybody, but
that's a very good question. In OpenSSH, I'm going to give you, but I cannot give you OpenSSL. I cannot give you OpenSSL because truly, I mean, what is the logic that you're using? If you tell me that you have a vulnerability scanner that is grabbing banners and checking the versions, okay, come to talk to me about NGINX, come to talk to me about Apache, but you come to talk to me about OpenSSL. I think that there is a lot of knee-jerk reaction going on here, okay? I think that there is a number of customers that if they have a nice logo and they read about it in the New York Times, they're going to come asking for it. But that does not mean that it's a serious vulnerability. Okay. I think that customers also have developed a low risk tolerance for some components. Two of those being OpenSSL and OpenSSH. And I'm going to leave it at that.
One question from my side, you talked about accounts that make up those things. Does your statistics include the publicly available CSAF documents that you provide?
The downloads of the CSAF documents?
Yep.
No. This was specifically focused on CVR because we were focusing on two things, TPS and VEX. VEX documents, yes. A VEX document is a CSAF document using the VEX profile, okay? But we weren't looking at the downloading of just advisories. Also remember that the vast majority of the Cisco advisories is not for TPS.
Thanks.
Thank you. I think it's your turn now. Oh, you don't get a second bite of the apple yet, okay?
Does Cisco have any metrics related to the number of assessments that are coming through CVR since its inception? So you mentioned that as a user, I can go in and request an assessment. for a
Oh,
specific
and I
product.
knew it. I ran out of time.
Coming through?
Maybe. I would like to say ping me later, but I'm gonna tell you, I will need to use, I didn't make it, I will use scientific notation to explain to you where in my queue is the priority to do that analysis now. I spent so much time with this, but yes, I started doing that and I just ran out of time. Sorry. Volcon 2026, eh? Okay.
So I have another question. Great data, like this is amazing.
Thank you.
My question is, do you collect some sort of user agent information to understand what is
That's
pulling the-
also actually a good question. We do not.
Okay.
I'm sorry. But now that I see that at least one person interested, I can go and talk to the development team. Yeah, they're probably gonna tell me to, get lost. But hey, I can have the conversation and they do that all the time. So I wanna go to the last slide because, and certainly happy, we still have time for more questions, but it's important for me for the last slide because again, the gentleman from Red Hat, he was looking over my shoulder when I was putting the deck together. So somebody asked, I think it was on Discord, why don't you make available advisories with all those vulnerabilities? Okay, I think that partially will be answered by the first entry, okay, which is the multi-VEX, the multi-CVE VEX download. So far, we've been talking about you can go and select a product, platform, and release, and enter a CVE ID, and then you get the option to download the VEX document. That VEX document represents one CVE ID for a given product, platform, and release combination. However, what we just added at the end of January 2025 is what we call multi-CVE or comprehensive VEX, on which you can select the product, platform, and release and not enter any CVE ID, and then you click on a button that says, tell me everything you have for this product, platform, and release. And we give you everything we have. So that document, instead of containing a single CVE ID, is gonna contain, I don't know how many other CVE IDs. Next step is we're gonna be migrating what I showed at the beginning, the traditional advisories, they're gonna be migrating into CVR. That's gonna happen within the next 6 months, okay? We are not gonna be discontinuing the advisories. They are just gonna be presented in a slightly different way, but you're still gonna have the capability to download a VEX document or a CSAF document, okay? And you can, of course, read the CSAF and render as you want. And the last thing that we have is, I've been talking all the time about you go to this GUI, you go to CVR, you enter a CVE ID, you click here to download. Okay, we are developing, we are testing an API that is going to allow customers to do that, okay? Instead of having to go onto the web and enter, selecting the product, platform, release, and the CVE ID, and click on a button, and here's you get, click here and you download. Well, no. We are testing an API that's an EFT. I don't really have a lot more data on that. I don't know how that's going to be, okay? I don't know what's going to happen with that API. Now, we really want to hear from you, okay? If you are a Cisco customer, partner, reseller, etc., and you are using CVR, let us know. Let us know what you like, and let us know what you don't like. Probably you like everything, okay? But in the very unlikely case that there is something that you don't like, okay? Let us know. And the final one, that's, another from Red Hat, are you a vulnerability scanner vendor? Okay, come talk to us. Because for us, it hurt us so bad, and it makes us feel so sad, okay? It has made Swati cry more than once. Because we have spent a lot of time return of investment in putting together these tools I didn't talk about SBOM, I can do another talk about SBOM, putting together SBOM, putting together VEX, and it kills us, okay, that other companies in the ecosystem that could be consuming this information and using it to provide a better service to their customer and our customers, AKA our common customers, and they are not doing it. And that was your message too, okay? Instead of somebody running the security scanner and saying, oh, you're running OpenSSL versus XYZ and you have 50 million different vulnerabilities, why don't you come and consume the bomb, and then you can match against the bomb and say, well, that's probably not true because they don't have this in the bomb, and consume the VEX, and then you can say, hey, well, and by the way, according to the VEX, they are not even affected, or they are affected, okay? So that will result in a lot more accurate scanning result, in a better customer experience, because customers can actually focus in chasing down the vulnerabilities that are relevant to their product and not chasing ghosts, okay? Thank you. I knew that would resonate with some people, okay? Make my life easy, security scanner vendor. Yes, yes, we're trying. Just, you know, and again, you folks, if you're customers for a scanner vendor, you tell them, go and talk to Cisco. Go and talk to Cisco, they wanna talk to you.
Did you mention that only public or open source CVs are in scope for CVR and not the Cisco CVs?
For now, we are migrating traditional advisories that will be Cisco advisories to
All right.
CVR.
So you'll
And
be able to get a VEX on a Cisco CV.
hopefully within the next 6 months,
Okay.
hopefully. But you know how development is.
All right. And it's going to remain free or? would you-
The GUI access, yes.
Okay.
See how careful I phrase that? Don't come complain.
Are you looking for allies to persuade
Always,
the tools vendors to consume VEX?
always. We grab them and we'll beat them all together. Okay, we'll show them. Absolutely. And you made the same question. Yes, I mean, you know it and I know it. Okay, it will be a great value, we think, to our customers. Why is it not happening? Okay, lawsuit averted. But yes, it should happen. Absolutely. Let's talk. Let's talk. If we have Oracle and we have Red Hat, we have to. I'm sorry. You've been delayed so long that I feel terrible. Yeah, bros, who doesn't know you, bros?
Oh, I had a question about how this was impacting Cisco internally. So are you seeing like a decrease in the number of like vulnerability questions that your support's having to handle, or are customers more going to this tool instead, or are you still seeing that going through support?
Actually, in some way, it's always tricky, right? In some ways has improved our relationship with the development teams, because when we come asking about vulnerabilities, not because before it was like, you're pulling that out of thin air. I'm not. It's our customers, it's your customers that want to know. So from that point of view but development teams, and I love all developers. I love puppies and rainbows and developers especially. But the truth is, you know how they are. Okay, once they are happy because they say, okay, now you're asking me about what, then immediately turns into, oh, but there are so many questions. Yeah, that's the nature of the problem, right? I mean, you sell the product, you should be able to handle the questions. Just this answer.
So I have another question, maybe far-fetched, about kind of your transition from printable to machine-readable vulnerability information. And it seems you make the split on kind of it's Cisco's fault, first-party CVE, versus it's somebody else's fault, third-party CVE. And my specific question is on really prioritization of that, because kind of every customer from our perspective is really important in what is the risk, EPSS, CVSS, whatever standard is there. But my assumption, or kind of I would want to see your assessment, is that we say if the vendor even made an advisory, it must be important. So will there be kind of advisories for important third-party vulnerabilities, or what do you think
They
about?
already are. They already are for the most critical. And we have on the Cisco vulnerability policy, we have a four item criteria that we use to decide when are we going to do a full blown. And it's the score has to be above 5.0. It has to have significant interest to our customer. It has to have demonstrated attacks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So for the most critical, we did it for Harbleed. Okay, so for those kind of scenarios, we will do, I'm going to be very careful here, because you see that you're asking me a question and I'm telling you we are migrating the advisories to CVR. Okay, so my answer today is going to change in 6 months, because if you're asking me, are you doing an advisory for this, you know, high impactful TPS? My answer may be like, I'm yes, on CVR. Go and get it from there. Okay, I think that we have time for maybe one more question. And if there is no question, it's okay. Okay, I mean, we can all go for the break.
So one question, if you're migrating the security advisories to CVRs, do you anticipate any issues regarding downloads and those that have systems that are kind of air-gapped, since you now require people to make the request directly to your platform? So let's think of governmental systems. Some of them don't like to upload their complete asset inventory to their vendors. So they basically prefer to grasp all the data that they have and evaluate it locally. But if you now need to ask all the questions through the API, the question is there still a download all in the API?
That's a good question. And let me rephrase in a different, or don't hate me, okay? Because I'm kind of gonna answer your question, but not really. Very similar to the gentleman from Red Hat, okay? What I'm thinking now is there could be a use case scenario of taking all this information together and bundling them and making it available for download somewhere. So as an example, when somebody has an R-Tight network, they can take that and they can import it and just run with it, okay? Just remember that a lot of this information is very much point in time, okay? So the second that you download, this is not like downloading from MITRE historical data and getting all CVE IDs, and that basically is set in stone unless somebody augments that data. The assessment may change from one, you know, I mean, if it's vulnerable, it's probably going to stay vulnerable. If it's under investigation, it's going to change. So, we good? No more questions? No more questions? No more questions, right? Okay, thank you very much for having me.